Hello everyone. So really quickly I'm going to go over how to put your paper design template drawing down onto metal. So you want to have for the best quality of designing and cutting out jewelry, you really want to have your design down on a piece of paper, whether it's a photocopy, printed out, hand drawn. Either way, it should be on a piece of paper that you can glue down. You want to cut out as much as the white paper around it as you can, but not all the way. You don't have to cut it right to the line. That's not necessary, but you want to get it pretty close. That way you don't lose a lot of metal. So if I left this big chunk on, I'm going to lose all that space. So I want to conserve the metal and have my design as close to the edge as possible. And I could even get crazy and bump that edge right up against that flat edge. That way it's one less edge to cut off. But for demo purposes, I'm going to just put it straight like that and cut it from start to finish. So once you have it cut out, you want to get your rubber cement. Really doesn't matter which brand, to me at least. I don't know, other jewelers might provide or might like different brands, but whatever rubber cement, just as long as it's rubber cement. We use rubber cement so that it keeps the paper design on the entire time you are sawing. The only way that rubber cement works correctly is by putting a thin layer on the metal and a thin layer on the back of the paper. So you don't want it clumpy on there. If it stays clumpy, it's going to take a really long time to dry. And if it stays wet where the clump is, it's going to tear there when you go to start sawing. So make sure that there's no big clumps of rubber cement. You also want to make sure it's not too thin that there's barely any rubber cement. So that's about as much as you want. If it's a little lumpy, that's fine, but you don't want it like super clumps. Especially if the rubber cement is old, just get rid of it and get a new container of it. And you usually can tell that if it's like globbing out of there, like you pull the brush out and it's just like all stuck and globby. So it takes a little bit of time to dry. If you're impatient, you can wave it around a little bit, you can blow on it. Otherwise, I suggest at this point in time loading your saw frame, getting something else ready that you need to get ready, maybe just laying out all your tools, whatever it is, but let that rubber cement dry. Both the paper needs to be coated, both the metal and the paper, and they both need to be completely dry before attaching them. And it's almost completely dry. I can see a little wet spot right there still. And if you're having a hard time being able to tell, you can take your finger. If it feels tacky, that's normal. But if it sticks to your finger, like you actually see some come off, then it means it's not dry enough. So that is pretty good. And I'm going to just try and peel from an edge without destroying my paper image. I'm going to flip it over. And then you get one shot at doing this. So I'm going to make sure that I'm pretty close to the edge of the metal, but my design's not hanging over. And there we go, right on there. If for some reason you have to, you go to put your design down, but like half the design's hanging off the edge, you need to pull that design back up, reapply the rubber cement to the metal because it's going to pull right off. Let it dry and try again. Don't just try to move your design and put it down, because then all of that rubber cement had just got pulled off the metal and now there's no rubber cement on the metal. And so when you go to start cutting, the paper design is just going to peel right off. It'll just start curling up. So I wipe away all the extra rubber cement that was around the design. That way the sawdust doesn't get all stuck to it. If you have any little piece of the white paper hanging off, I just trim it off. That way that doesn't start wanting to pull off the metal as you're sawing. So just trim those off. Now we are ready to go. So that is rubber cementing your design down to the metal. And before we go, also want to remind, stay in the bottom right hand corner. We're going to saw counterclockwise if you're right-handed. So this is really mostly for right-handed people. You want to saw counterclockwise so that your left hand's out of the way of the saw blade. So make sure that your design's in the bottom right hand corner. If you're left-handed, you're going to do the opposite. Okay? Thank you.